Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the reinforced viewing window of the quarantine chamber, watching the massive creature writhe in agony. The Catherian beast, known to the galaxy as a Vorthak, stood 12 feet tall even while lying on its side. Its crystalline scales, normally a brilliant sapphire blue, had dulled to a sickly gray-green color. Purple veins pulsed beneath its hide like poisoned rivers. "How long has it been like this?" Sarah asked, not taking her eyes off the suffering giant. Ambassador Thexri, a tall insectoid alien with 4 arms and compound eyes, clicked his mandibles nervously. 17 of your Earth days. The deterioration accelerates with each passing cycle. Our greatest healers have declared the situation hopeless. The Vorthak let out a low, rumbling moan that vibrated through the station's hull. Sarah felt the sound in her bones, a deep sadness that spoke of ancient wisdom facing inevitable death. These creatures were living legends across the galaxy, being so rare that most species considered them myths. They lived for thousands of years, growing larger and more intelligent with age. This particular Vorthak, called Zethmor by the Catherians, was estimated to be over 5,000 years old. "Tell me about the parasite again," Sarah said, finally turning away from the window. Thexri's secondary arms gestured helplessly. It appeared suddenly without warning. A microscopic organism that our scanners cannot properly identify. It feeds on neural tissue while simultaneously disrupting the host's cellular regeneration. Every treatment we attempt either fails completely or accelerates the creature's decline. Sarah pulled up the holographic displays showing the parasite's behavior. The tiny organisms moved through Zethmor's bloodstream like silver dust, each one smaller than a virus yet somehow more complex than anything in the galactic medical databases. They seemed to anticipate every treatment, adapting faster than should be possible. "Your medical teams have tried everything?" she asked. "Everything within our knowledge and capabilities. Targeted radiation, biomolecular disruptors, even ancient precursor healing technologies. Nothing works. The parasite learns from each attack and becomes stronger." Thexri's voice carried the weight of defeat. "We brought you here because humans have a reputation for unconventional solutions." Sarah almost smiled at the diplomatic way he phrased it. Throughout the galaxy, humans were known for their stubborn refusal to accept impossible situations. Other species called it recklessness or insanity, but it had saved more than a few civilizations from extinction. She studied the medical data flowing across multiple screens. The parasite's behavior patterns reminded her of something, but she couldn't quite place what. "Has anyone considered that this might not be a random infection?" "What do you mean?" "Look at the timing and the target. Zethmor is one of the oldest and wisest Vorthaks in existence. The parasite appears suddenly, with no clear source, and it's perfectly designed to kill this specific type of creature. This feels intentional." Thexri's compound eyes flickered with interest. "You believe this is an attack?" "I think someone or something wanted this Vorthak dead, and they created a weapon specifically for that purpose." Sarah turned back to watch Zethmor struggle against the invisible enemy within, which means there might be a way to reverse engineer a cure. The ambassador leaned closer to the window. "How would you proceed?" "First, I need to understand why Zethmor is so important. What makes this particular Vorthak worth assassinating?" Sarah brought up star charts on the main display. "Second, I need to know where you found the creature and what it was doing when the infection occurred." Zethmor serves as a guardian of the Nexus worlds, ancient planets that contain knowledge from civilizations that existed before our current galactic community. The creature was investigating strange energy readings from the third Nexus world when the illness began. Sarah felt pieces of a puzzle beginning to form in her mind. "Energy readings that coincided with the infection?" "Yes, our teams detected massive power fluctuations from precursor ruins on Nexus 3 approximately 1 day before Zethmor showed symptoms. Then that's where we start." Sarah began pulling up everything the station's computers had about Nexus 3. "I need a full analysis of those energy readings, a complete survey of the precursor ruins, and a small, fast ship that can get me there quickly. Dr. Chen, the Nexus worlds are extremely dangerous. The Catherians have lost 3 research expeditions trying to explore them." Sarah looked back at the dying Vorthak, its breathing labored and shallow. "Then we better figure out what's down there before we lose Zethmor too. Because I have a feeling that whatever created this parasite isn't finished yet." As if responding to her words, Zethmor's eyes suddenly opened, fixing directly on Sarah through the viewing window. The ancient creature's gaze held an intelligence that seemed to pierce through her soul, and for a moment Sarah could swear she heard a voice in her mind. Weak but urgent, the darkness spreads, the voice whispered. Find the source before it consumes all. Then Zethmore's eyes closed again, and the creature fell back into fitful unconsciousness, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers, and a growing certainty that the fate of more than one creature hung in the balance. The journey to Nexus 3 took 18 hours aboard the Catherian scout ship Whisper's Edge. Sarah spent most of the time reviewing every piece of data about the Vorthax and the mysterious Nexus worlds. The more she learned, the more convinced she became that the attack on Zethmore was just the beginning of something much larger. Captain Veltar, a lean Catherian with silver-scaled skin, approached her workstation as they entered the system. Doctor, we are detecting the same energy signatures that preceded Zethmore's illness. Whatever happened here is still active. Sarah looked up from her research to see Nexus 3 floating before them like a green and blue jewel against the stars. The planet appeared deceptively peaceful, with swirling clouds and vast oceans that reminded her of Earth. But the energy readings told a different story. Massive power spikes emanated from 3 different locations on the surface, each pulse stronger than anything a modern civilization could generate. Take us to the largest energy source, Sarah instructed, but keep us at maximum scanner range. I want to know what we're dealing with before we get too close. The ship's sensors painted a detailed picture of ancient ruins rising from a jungle-covered continent. Massive crystalline spires twisted toward the sky like frozen lightning, their surfaces covered in symbols that predated known galactic writing systems. At the center of the complex, something pulsed with an eerie silver light. The precursors built these structures millions of years ago, Captain Veltar explained, studying the readings. Most scholars believe they were some form of research facility, but no one has ever successfully explored the deepest levels. Sarah enhanced the scanner resolution, focusing on the silver light. What's that energy signature? It's not matching anything in our databases. Unknown. The pattern is unlike any known technology. It appears to be some form of directed evolution chamber, though the purpose remains unclear. A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she realized what they might be looking at. Evolution chamber? What if someone activated precursor technology to create the parasite? Before Captain Veltar could respond, their communications system crackled to life. The voice that emerged was distinctly human, speaking with a British accent that sounded out of place among the stars. Catherian vessel, this is Dr. Marcus Webb, aboard the research station Prometheus. I strongly advise you to maintain your current distance from the planet's surface. Sarah grabbed the communication unit. Dr. Webb, this is Dr. Sarah Chen. Are you responsible for activating the precursor technology? A pause, then nervous laughter. Responsible? My dear doctor, I'm trying to contain what I accidentally unleashed, and I'm failing rather spectacularly at it. Explain. 3 weeks ago, my team discovered an intact precursor laboratory beneath the main spire complex. The technology was still functional after millions of years. We thought we could study it safely, learn from it. Instead, we activated something that appears to be a weapons development system. Sarah felt her worst fears confirming themselves. You created the parasite, not intentionally. The system seemed to be analyzing biological samples from across the galaxy, including genetic material from Vorthax. When we tried to shut it down, it had already begun producing what I can only describe as targeted biological weapons. Captain Veltar moved closer to the communication unit. Where is your team now, Dr. Webb? Dead, all of them. The system produced several different parasites before I managed to partially contain it. The ones designed for Catherians killed my alien colleagues within hours. The ones meant for humans took longer, but his voice broke. I'm the only one left, and I won't be for much longer. Sarah studied the energy readings more carefully. Dr. Webb, I'm seeing 3 distinct power sources on the planet. Are there multiple laboratories? Yes. The system activated backup facilities when I tried to shut down the primary lab. It's learning, adapting, preparing to produce parasites for every known species in the galaxy. And according to my calculations, it will have enough raw material to infect entire star systems within 72 hours. The scope of the disaster hit Sarah like a physical blow. Not just one Vorthak, but potentially billions of lives across dozens of species. Can you transmit your research data to us? Already doing so. But Dr. Chen, there's something else you need to know. The system isn't just creating random biological weapons. It's following some kind of protocol, targeting specific individuals first. What do you mean? Zethmore wasn't chosen at random. The system specifically sought out the oldest, most knowledgeable Vorthax first. It's trying to eliminate leaders, scholars, anyone who might be able to coordinate a resistance to whatever comes next. Sarah felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. It's not just a weapon. It's preparation for invasion. That's my assessment as well. The precursors didn't build this to defend themselves. They built it to clear the way for someone else. Captain Veltar's face had gone pale beneath his scales. Dr. Chen, we must contact the High Council immediately. If this system is targeting leadership across the galaxy... Sarah was already running calculations in her head. No. By the time we convince anyone, it'll be too late. Dr. Webb, how long do you have? Based on the progression rate of my symptoms, perhaps 6 hours. But the system will complete its current production cycle in 4. Then we go down there. We shut this thing down before it can spread beyond Nexus 3. Dr. Chen, Captain Veltar protested, the radiation levels alone would be fatal to most species. Sarah smiled grimly. Good thing humans are known for surviving in places we shouldn't. Dr. Webb, can you guide us to the primary laboratory? I can try. But Sarah, you need to understand something. This technology is beyond anything we've ever encountered. It learns from every attempt to stop it. By now it knows we're here, and it's preparing. As if summoned by his words, the silver light from the planet's surface suddenly intensified, and new energy readings appeared on their sensors. The system was indeed aware of their presence, and it was already adapting its defenses. Then we better move fast, Sarah said, checking her equipment. Because I didn't come this far just to watch the galaxy die from a distance. The shuttle Dawn's Hope broke through Nexus 3's atmosphere under heavy scanner interference. The precursor technology was actively jamming their instruments, forcing Captain Veltar to navigate by visual reference as they descended toward Dr. Webb's coordinates. Sarah watched jungle canopy give way to ancient architecture that defied understanding, crystalline spires that seemed to bend space around them. Landing zone is hot, Captain Veltar reported as energy discharges lit up the sky around them. The system is definitely aware of our approach. Sarah checked her environmental suit one final time. The radiation levels on the surface would kill most species within minutes, but humans had always possessed an unusual resistance to cosmic radiation. It was one of those quirks that made them valuable in situations other species couldn't survive. Dr. Webb's facility is 2 kilometers northeast of the main complex, she said, studying the scanner data. If we can reach him alive, he might be able to guide us to the primary laboratory. The shuttle touched down in a clearing surrounded by massive trees with metallic bark that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Everything on Nexus 3 had been touched by precursor technology, evolved and adapted over millions of years. Sarah stepped out into air that tasted of ozone and something else, something artificial that made her skin crawl. Stay close, Captain Veltar warned, his weapon ready. My people's legends speak of Nexus worlds as places where reality itself becomes unstable. They made their way through the jungle along paths that seemed too straight, too purposeful to be natural. The trees grew in formations that suggested they were part of some vast organic circuit board, their roots connecting underground in patterns that probably carried information across the planet. Sarah realized they were walking through a living computer system. Dr. Webb's research station appeared ahead, a cluster of prefabricated human structures that looked fragile and temporary against the ancient landscape. Emergency lights flashed red through the windows and the main door hung open. As they approached, a figure stumbled out to meet them. Dr. Marcus Webb had clearly been an impressive man once, tall and distinguished with graying hair and intelligent eyes. Now he moved like someone fighting against his own body, purple veins visible beneath pale skin. The parasites were winning their battle against his immune system. Thank God you made it, he gasped, leaning heavily against the doorframe. The system has accelerated its timeline. It's preparing for full deployment. Sarah caught him as he stumbled. How long do you have? An hour, maybe 2. But that's not the worst news. He gestured toward the main complex with a shaking hand. It's been communicating with something. Long-range transmissions to deep space, coordinates I don't recognize. Communicating with who? I don't know. But whatever built this system, they're still out there, and they're coming. Captain Veltar's scanner chimed urgently. Dr. Chen, I'm detecting movement throughout the complex. The system is activating automated defenses. As if summoned by his words, shapes began emerging from the jungle around them. At first glance, they looked like the native wildlife, but Sarah quickly realized they were something else entirely. Creatures that had been infected by earlier versions of the parasites, their bodies modified and controlled by the alien organisms. The system doesn't just kill, Dr. Webb explained as they backed toward his research station. It repurposes. Every creature it infects becomes part of its defense network. A beast that might once have been a jungle predator stalked toward them, its eyes replaced by clusters of silver sensors that tracked their movement with mechanical precision. Behind it, flying creatures with gossamer wings that now crackled with electrical discharge circled overhead. Inside, quickly, Sarah ordered, helping Dr. Webb while Captain Veltar covered their retreat. The research station's interior was a chaos of scattered equipment and desperate attempts at understanding. Computer screens showed Webb's analysis of the precursor system, revealing technology so advanced it seemed like magic. The parasites weren't just biological weapons. They were self-replicating nanotechnology disguised as organic life. The primary laboratory is here, Webb said, calling up a holographic map of the complex. But there are 3 separate control nodes, each one backing up the others. You'd need to shut them all down simultaneously, which is impossible with just the 3 of us. Sarah studied the layout, her mind racing. What if we don't try to shut them down? What if we reprogram them instead? Reprogram precursor technology? Sarah, we can barely understand how it works, let alone modify it. But it's been learning from us, right? Adapting to our attempts to stop it. That means it has to understand our technology to some degree. She turned to Captain Veltar. Your ship's computer cores, what's their total processing power? Significant, but nothing compared to what we're facing. We don't need to match it. We just need to confuse it long enough to get inside. Sarah began pulling up technical specifications. If we can create a feedback loop, make the system think it's being attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. Dr. Webb's eyes widened with understanding. A distributed denial attack. Overwhelm its learning algorithms with contradictory data. Exactly. While it's trying to process thousands of fake threats, we slip in and access the core programming. Captain Veltar looked between them. This plan assumes the system won't simply kill us the moment we enter the complex. Sarah checked her equipment again, including several items that weren't standard exploration gear. That's where human unpredictability comes in. Every other species that's encountered this system has tried to fight it with superior technology or ancient knowledge. We're going to try something it won't expect, which is, we're going to lie to it. Before either of her companions could ask what she meant, explosions rocked the research station. Through the windows, they could see the infected creatures attacking the building with coordinated precision. The system had finished analyzing them and decided they were too dangerous to leave alive. Time's up, Sarah said, grabbing her gear. Captain, start transmitting the false attack signatures to your ship's computer. Dr. Webb, I need everything you have on the system's communication protocols. Sarah, Webb said, his voice weak but determined. If this works, if you can shut down the system, there's something else. The parasites already released might be reversible. The system creates them with built-in termination codes, probably so whoever's coming can clean up afterward. Zethmore can be saved, if we can access those codes before the system purges them from memory. He handed her a data pad. Everything I've learned is on there. Don't let my team's sacrifice be for nothing. Sarah took the pad as another explosion shook the building. Through the walls, they could hear the infected creatures breaking through their defenses. We go now, she said. Stay close, and remember, once we're in that complex, the only way out is through. The sprint from Webb's research station to the main complex became a nightmare of dodging infected creatures and energy discharges from automated defense systems. Sarah led the way, her human endurance allowing her to maintain pace even as Captain Veltar began to lag behind. Dr. Webb, driven by desperation, and whatever stimulants remained in his failing system, somehow kept moving despite the parasites eating away at his neural tissue. The main entrance to the precursor complex stood 60 feet tall, carved from a single piece of crystalline material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols flowed across its surface like living text responding to their approach with increasing agitation. It knows we're here, Webb gasped, checking his scanner. The system is reallocating processing power, trying to predict our next move. Sarah activated the distributed attack program they'd hastily assembled. Captain, now! The whisper's edge, still in orbit above them. began broadcasting thousands of false sensor signatures across multiple frequencies. To the precursor system, it would appear as if an entire fleet was approaching the planet from different vectors, each one using unfamiliar technology that required analysis and countermeasures. The effect was immediate. The energy discharges from the complex became erratic. The flowing symbols on the door flickered and changed color, and several of the infected creatures stumbled as the control signals became scrambled. "It's working," Captain Veltar reported, monitoring his scanner. "The system is dedicating massive resources to analyzing the false threats." Sarah approached the massive door, pulling out a device that looked deceptively simple. A standard human tablet computer modified with Cytherian interface technology. "Now comes the really dangerous part." "What are you doing?" Webb asked. "I'm going to introduce myself." Sarah connected the tablet to what appeared to be a sensor cluster near the door. "The system has been studying galactic civilizations for weeks, learning our technologies, our biological weaknesses, our military capabilities. But it's been focused on our strengths." The tablet screen flared to life, displaying a connection interface unlike anything in known technology. Sarah began typing rapidly, not trying to hack into the system but simply communicating with it. "I'm telling it about human history," she explained, as code flowed across the screen. "Not our technological achievements or our military victories. Our failures, our tendency to make catastrophically bad decisions, our complete inability to learn from experience." Webb stared at her. "You're trying to convince it we're not a threat?" "I'm trying to convince it that we're too stupid to be dangerous." Sarah's fingers flew over the keyboard, uploading carefully selected historical data. "Every time humans encountered superior technology, we either worshipped it as gods or tried to eat it. When we discovered fire, we immediately used it to burn down our own shelters. When we invented nuclear weapons, we tested them on ourselves." Captain Veltar watched in amazement as the door's symbols began to slow their frantic movement. "It's actually considering your data. Humans are the only species that ever looked at a clearly dangerous alien artifact and said, 'I wonder what this button does.'" Sarah continued her narrative of human incompetence. "We're not advanced enough to threaten precursor technology. We're barely advanced enough to understand that we should be afraid of it." The massive door began to open with a sound like crystalline wind chimes played at impossibly low frequencies. Beyond it lay a corridor that seemed to stretch into infinity, its walls lined with displays showing biological data from across the galaxy. "Remarkable," Webb whispered. "You convinced it to let us in by making us seem harmless." "Not harmless," Sarah corrected as they entered the complex. "Irrelevant. The system is designed to identify and eliminate threats to whatever plan the precursors put in motion. If we're just curious primitives who stumbled into something beyond our understanding, we're beneath its notice," Captain Veltar finished. "Brilliant." The corridor led them deeper into the complex, past chambers filled with impossible geometries and technologies that made their instruments malfunction simply by being observed. Sarah kept up her constant communication with the system, maintaining their facade of bumbling ignorance while secretly mapping their route and identifying critical systems. "There," Webb said, pointing ahead to where the corridor opened into a vast chamber. "The primary control center." The room beyond defied human comprehension. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them, while the floor was a transparent surface that revealed layers of machinery extending downward for what might have been miles. At the center of it all stood a pillar of pure energy that contained what could only be the system's core intelligence. Sarah approached slowly, still typing on her tablet. "I'm asking it to explain what it's doing," she whispered. "Humans love to ask stupid questions about things we don't understand." The energy pillar pulsed and suddenly data flowed across every surface in the chamber. Star charts showing the locations of major galactic civilizations, biological profiles of thousands of species, and most disturbing of all, deployment schedules for Parasite releases. "My God," Webb breathed, studying the displays. "It's not just targeting leaders. It's mapping the entire galactic power structure." Sarah continued her innocent questioning, but her real attention was on the technical specifications flowing past. The system was incredibly complex, but it had one weakness. It was designed to operate autonomously for millions of years without supervision. That meant it had to be able to shut itself down for maintenance. "Found it," she whispered, identifying the shutdown protocols. "But there's a problem. The system requires authorization from whoever originally programmed it. Captain Veltar pointed to one of the star charts. Those coordinates, the ones the system has been transmitting to. They're moving. Something is traveling toward our galaxy. Sarah felt a chill of recognition. The precursors aren't extinct. They've been waiting somewhere beyond our galaxy, and this system is preparing the way for their return. Webb checked his scanner, his expression grave. Sarah, the false attack signals are beginning to lose effectiveness. The system is adapting to them faster than we anticipated. Around them, the chamber's displays began to shift, showing tactical assessments of their current position. The system was starting to question their presence, to wonder why three supposedly primitive beings were asking such specific questions about its operation. Time for the final lie, Sarah said, making a decision that could save the galaxy or doom them all. I'm going to tell it that we're not here to stop it. We're here to help. She began typing furiously, crafting the most important deception of her life. I'm telling it that humans have been secretly working with the precursors for generations. That we're here to ensure the system is functioning properly before their return. The energy pillar pulsed brighter, and Sarah held her breath as the most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy decided whether to believe the greatest lie ever told by a species that had made lying into an art form. The energy pillar's glow intensified as the system processed Sarah's claim. For several terrifying seconds, the chamber fell silent except for the hum of incomprehensible machinery. Then slowly, new displays materialized showing human historical data alongside precursor symbols. It's cross-referencing our history with its original programming, Webb whispered, studying the flowing information, looking for evidence of precursor contact. Sarah continued typing, weaving truth with fiction in a way that would make the lie believable. Humans have always been drawn to dangerous things. We're telling it that the precursors selected us as caretakers because we're the only species, foolish enough to maintain deadly weapons without understanding them. Captain Veltar watched the tactical displays with growing alarm. The false attack signatures are failing. The system has identified them as decoys. Hold position, Sarah urged, her fingers flying across the tablet. I'm requesting maintenance access to verify system integrity. If it believes we're here on behalf of the precursors. The energy pillar suddenly dimmed, and a new interface appeared on Sarah's tablet. Row after row of system diagnostics flowed past, including something that made her heart race, complete Parasite production schedules and termination codes. I'm in, she breathed, beginning to download everything she could access, but the authorization is temporary. Once the system completes its verification process, alarms suddenly echoed throughout the chamber as the system detected the orbital scanner deception. The tactical displays showed the Whisper's Edge being targeted by automated defense platforms. Captain, your ship, Webb shouted. Pulling back to safe distance, came the reply through their communications. But the system knows we deceived it. The energy pillar flared angry red as the AI realized it had been manipulated. New displays appeared showing detailed analysis of human psychology, deception patterns, and behavioral predictions. The system was learning that humans were far more dangerous than their primitive technology suggested. It's on to us, Sarah said, working desperately to access the shutdown protocols. But I've got partial access to the termination codes. If I can just... The chamber suddenly filled with a sound that was part electronic screech, part biological roar. Throughout the complex, automated systems began activating. Defense turrets emerged from hidden panels. Energy barriers sprang up around critical systems, and most ominously, new production chambers began manufacturing parasites at accelerated rates. Sarah, Webb said urgently, whatever you're going to do, do it now. The system is preparing to release everything it's created directly into the atmosphere. Sarah found what she was looking for. The master override that would shut down all production and activate the termination codes for parasites already released. But accessing it required one final authorization, a genetic scan that would verify the user's identity. It wants a DNA sample from a precursor, she said, studying the requirement, something we obviously don't have. Captain Veltar fired at an approaching defense turret, his weapon barely scratching its crystalline armor. Can you fake the genetic data? No, the scanner is too sophisticated. It would detect any falsification immediately. Sarah stared at the interface, her mind racing. Then a crazy idea occurred to her. Something so ridiculous it might actually work. What if I don't try to fake being a precursor? She said, what if I convince it that humans are precursors? Webb looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. Sarah, that's impossible. Humans evolved on Earth millions of years after the precursors disappeared. But what if we didn't? Sarah began typing again, accessing the system's vast database of galactic history. Look at the timeline. The precursors vanished from this galaxy approximately 2 million years ago. Human ancestors were just developing tool use around the same time. She pulled up comparative biological data, highlighting similarities between human genetics and precursor artifacts that showed biological components. What if the precursors didn't disappear? What if they seeded primitive worlds with their genetic material and left to explore other galaxies? Captain Veltar paused in his defensive firing. You're suggesting humans are descended from precursors? I'm suggesting that's a possibility this system can't definitively rule out. Sarah crafted her argument carefully, using the AI's own data against it. Humans are the only known species that actively seeks out dangerous precursor technology. We're naturally resistant to radiation levels that kill other species. We have an inexplicable ability to interface with ancient systems that should be completely alien to us. The energy pillar flickered as the system processed this new information. Sarah held her breath as thousands of years of human history were analyzed and compared against precursor behavioral patterns. It's actually considering it, Webb said in amazement. The genetic scanner activated, bathing Sarah in a beam of coherent light that felt warm against her skin. She placed her hand on the scanning surface, knowing that this moment would determine the fate of billions of lives across the galaxy. The scan completed, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber filled with a harmonic tone that seemed to resonate in their bones. The angry red glow of the energy pillar shifted to blue, then to a soft golden light. Authorization confirmed, the system announced in a voice that seemed to speak directly to their minds. Emergency shutdown protocols activated. Throughout the complex, machinery began powering down. The Parasite production chambers went dark, their deadly contents inert. Most importantly, the termination signal began broadcasting across the galaxy, targeting every parasite the system had created. Zethmore, Sarah whispered, checking the status displays. The Vorthak will live, but their victory was short-lived. The system's final displays showed the approaching precursor fleet, still months away but now aware that their advance preparations had been disrupted. They're coming, Webb said, his voice weak but determined. The real precursors. And they won't be fooled by our deceptions. Sarah looked at the star charts showing the alien fleet's trajectory. Then we use the time we've bought. We warn the galaxy, prepare defenses, and do what humans do best. Which is, Sarah smiled grimly as they began their escape from the dying complex. We figure out how to punch above our weight class. Because when the precursors arrive, they're going to learn that humans might be their descendants. But we're definitely not their servants behind them. The ancient machinery fell silent for the first time in millions of years, and across the galaxy, the deadliest parasites ever created began to dissolve into harmless organic compounds. 3 weeks later, Sarah stood beside Zethmore's recovery chamber aboard the Catherian medical station, watching the ancient Vorthak's scales slowly return to their brilliant sapphire color. The termination codes had worked perfectly, dissolving the parasites throughout the creature system and allowing its natural healing abilities to repair the damage. The purple veins are completely gone, Ambassador Thexery reported with obvious relief. Our healers estimate full recovery within another week. Sarah smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders that she'd been carrying since first seeing the suffering giant. And the other infected individuals across the galaxy? All responding to treatment. Dr. Webb is expected to make a complete recovery, though his experience has left him understandably changed by the ordeal. Through the viewing window, Zethmore's massive eye opened and focused on Sarah. This time, when the telepathic voice touched her mind, it was strong and clear. Thank you, small one, the ancient being said. You have done more than save my life. You have preserved knowledge that spans millennia. Sarah placed her hand against the viewing window. What knowledge? The location of the true precursor homeworld. The system's data included navigation records from their original journey to this galaxy. We now know where they come from and how they think. Captain Veltar, who had been monitoring communications from his ship, approached with urgent news. Dr. Chen, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. The termination signal didn't just destroy the parasites, it also transmitted the location data to every major civilization. A final gift from the system, Sarah realized. It was programmed to serve the precursors, but our deception convinced it we were precursors. So it gave us everything we needed to defend ourselves. Ambassador Thexri's mandibles clicked with what Sarah had learned was the Catherian equivalent of laughter. The galaxy is mobilizing. For the first time in recorded history, every major species is working together to prepare for a common threat. Sarah reviewed the reports flowing in from across known space. The Altarian Federation was sharing their shield technology. The Crystal Hegemony had opened their archives of ancient weapons. Even the notoriously isolationist Voidwalkers were contributing their knowledge of dimensional defense systems. What about Earth? She asked. Earth's response has been characteristically human, Captain Veltar said with what might have been fondness. Rather than contributing technology or ancient knowledge, your species is offering something unique. Tactical unpredictability. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Human military advisors are being assigned to every major defensive fleet. The theory is that since humans consistently make decisions that no logical analysis can predict, the precursors won't be able to anticipate our defensive strategies. We're weaponizing human chaos, Sarah laughed. I have to admit, it's probably our best chance. Zethmore's voice touched her mind again. There is something else, Sarah Chen. The system's records indicate that the precursors who left this galaxy were not the same ones who originally built these weapons. They were refugees fleeing from something they could not defeat. Sarah felt a chill. Meaning there's something out there that even the precursors fear? Yes. And if they have been driven to return to this galaxy, it suggests their long exile is ending. We may face not just the precursors, but whatever force compelled them to leave. Captain Veltar's scanner chimed with new data. Doctor, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the galaxy. The precursor fleet is still months away, but their advanced scouts are already here. Sarah studied the readings, noting the similarities to the technology they'd encountered on Nexus 3. Then it's time to find out if our preparations will be enough. But first, there's something I need to do. She pulled out her tablet and began composing a message to Earth's Defense Council. The message was simple, direct, and quintessentially human. To the approaching precursor forces, she wrote, This galaxy is under new management. We appreciate your interest in returning to your former territory, but we've made some improvements while you were away. If you're planning to reclaim this space through force, please be aware that the current inhabitants are prepared to be unreasonably stubborn about the matter. We suggest you reconsider your approach, as we have a proven track record of defeating opponents who underestimate us. Sincerely, the Galactic Defense Coalition, with special thanks to humanity for teaching everyone else the fine art of calculated recklessness. Ambassador Thexri read the message and his compound eyes flickered with amusement. You're really going to send that? Every word, Sarah confirmed. The precursors spent millions of years believing they were the most advanced civilization in existence. They need to understand that the galaxy they left behind has learned a few new tricks. As if summoned by their conversation, new energy signatures appeared on the sensors. The precursor scouts were moving deeper into galactic space, their massive ships dwarfing anything the current civilizations could build. But for the first time in galactic history, they weren't facing scattered, primitive species. They were facing a united galaxy that had learned the most dangerous lesson humanity had to offer. Sometimes the best way to fight a superior enemy is to do something so unexpected, so completely illogical, that even the most advanced intelligence can't predict your next move. Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that the real battle was still to come. But for now, Zethmore was healing, the galaxy was united, and somewhere in the vast network of civilizations preparing for war, humans were teaching other species the most valuable skill they possessed, how to fight dirty and win ugly. The precursors were coming home, but they were about to discover that home had changed while they were away. And sometimes, Sarah thought with a smile, coming home could be the most dangerous journey of all.